Hello, welcome to the beach. This rocky habitat is home to many creatures with special traits that help them to survive. There's more at this beach than animals. What do you notice on this rock? This seaweed is brown algae. It's out of the water now, but it needs to spend some of its time underwater as well. The moon and even the sun cause high tide and low tide. What tide do you think it is here? We can tell that it's low tide because so much seaweed is out of the water. I found this piece of a large Jonah crab. It was probably eaten by a larger animal. What's something that might have eaten it? As you can see here, gulls, like this herring gull, love to eat crabs. Their beaks are great at catching them. This seabird is a great egret. Its long legs allow it to walk in the water as it searches for prey. It uses its long beak to catch fishes and other small animals to eat. Two crows came over to it, hoping to get scraps of food. When looking for creatures under rocks, I make sure to turn the rocks back over so that the algae and any small animals living underneath won't get dried out by the sun. These rocks weren't very wet and didn't have much under them, so I decided to look for a tide pool that was full of water. This tide pool seemed like a great place to find sea creatures, since it had water in it at low tide. It was full of rocks and seaweed, which provide hiding places for lots of small animals. What do you notice about this creature? What traits might help it survive in its habitat? This is a green crab, and it uses its 8 walking legs to bury itself. This is another green crab, the same kind as the one before. It's a lot smaller because it's younger. While they're usually green, green crabs come in many colors like red, orange, tan, brown, black, and white. These are all the same type of crab, and they use their colors to match their habitat. When a creature uses its color to blend in with its surroundings, it's called camouflage. Green crabs use their claws to grab food and pinch predators. What do you notice about this crab? Did you notice that this crab only has one claw? Sometimes, crabs lose claws when they fight each other or if a predator tries to eat them. But crabs can grow new claws. Look carefully and you can see the beginning of a new claw starting to grow. Crabs belong to a group of creatures called crustaceans. Shrimp, lobsters, and hermit crabs are also crustaceans. Look carefully and you'll see a shrimp. The shrimp in these tide pools are known as ghost shrimp. They're called this because they're mostly clear, making it difficult for predators to notice them. If they are noticed, ghost shrimp will swim backwards by quickly flapping their tails. Another crustacean I found was this isopod. This isopod lives in the ocean, but there are land isopods as well. You've probably seen them. Does this creature remind you of anything you've seen under a rock or log? The creatures that we call pillbugs, sowbugs, woodlice, and roly-polies are all isopods. How might this creature protect itself? This snail is called a common periwinkle. Its shell is very thick to protect it from predators. Periwinkles use tentacles to sense their environment and crawl on their slimy stomachs. While their shells are hard, these parts are soft, so they have a special way of protecting them. Watch carefully and see what happens when I pick this periwinkle up. The periwinkle closed a hard part that acts like a trapdoor. This can keep its soft parts safe from predators, blocking off crabs' claws and birds' beaks. The trapdoor also keeps water in the periwinkle's shell so it can stay wet if it gets stuck on land during low tide. Watch this snail. What's something that makes it different from the common periwinkle? This snail is called a tortoiseshell limpet. Its shell is much flatter than a periwinkle's, making it very difficult for predators to pull it off the rocks. It doesn't have a trap door, but sticking to rocks is enough to keep it safe from many crabs and birds. Remember this video of the seaweed-covered rock? I filmed it when the tide was at its lowest. Let's see how much the tide changes an hour later. Here's the same rock an hour later. The water has gotten higher, but high tide wasn't for another 5 hours. Do you see any signs of how far in the water will be at high tide? Remember, seaweed and some other algae need ocean water to survive. This green algae is a sign of how high the water will be at high tide. It's able to stay out of the water a lot longer than the seaweed, which is a type of brown algae. Like plants, algae needs sunlight to grow, but algae isn't a plant. Algae doesn't have roots, leaves, stems, or flowers like plants do. Thank you for joining our beach adventure. Next time you see an animal or other living thing, maybe you'll observe a trait that helps it survive. Whether it's at the beach or in your backyard, I'm sure you'll notice something by looking closely.